unpunished.
All right, do you need to get all of that out there? All of that just out of your system before we start?
I'll get it out at some point. I'm going to reference Wicked throughout the entire fic.
Oh, good lord. Anyways, I was going to say, the book probably definitely doesn't end as happy as Frozen does. It's not a happy book. It's not a fun read.
I feel like I'd consider the book more canon than I consider the musical.
Thankfully, neither of them are canon.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's be real here. It was written, 50 years after the dude died?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Who does that?
People who like fan fiction.
Oh, that's a nice segue.
It is. I guess I'm going to have to leave this in, because that's funny. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Ross Pitt Wizzy Puff Fanfiction Power Hour. Except, forget the two P's in there. Forget Pitt and Puff. It's just Ross and Wizzy's Fanfiction Power Hour.
Pitt X Puff.
No, ew.
Becoming a tag on Fanfiction.
Maybe. Hey, Fanfiction. Wink.
Hit me up. I need that Fanfiction money.
Wizzy, I gotta know. I just gotta know. If you had an OC, what would their race be?
What?
What race would your OC be? Your pony OC.
Oh.
Your pony Sona.
Do you mean like Earth Pony or whatever it is, / Pegasus / Unicorn?
It's Earth Pony, Pegasus, or Unicorn. It's a much easier way to say it.
Probably. That's what I said.
You said // That adds like 5 extra syllables.
Probably Unicorn.
What a nerd.
The heck?
I'm a Pegasus.
All right, I'm narrating this now if you're not going to start.
Hey, back off, pal. This is just a riff. This is a dialogue between us. It's important that we have a dialogue.
Unicorns are better than all the others. They're smarter, they're more intelligent, they're brighter.
Unicorns are better than people.
Ross, don't you think it is so?
I do, actually. But I still think that Pegasi are better than unicorns.
I disagree on that, though.
Ooh. Well, you're stupid. Pegasi are free.
But people smell better than unicorns. It's just a fact.
I actually hear that unicorns smell pretty good.
Yeah, well, you've never had to meet one.
Neither have you, pal.
I bred a narwhal with a horse. Let's just leave it at that.
So, was the horn a tooth?
I said let's leave it at that.
All right, yeah, we've got on for 4 minutes in this recording. Obviously, some of it will be cut down, but, you know. Today, we are reading Scribble by the Red Parade. I think I have another one of their stories lined up.
I would like to know why the title is completely uncapitalized.
Because it's deep.
Okay.
Times change everything. History, sadly, is not what has happened. History is what was written by the victors or the defeated. By writing history, we are instead making history. The large red stallion drew a deep breath and blinked his eyes. It didn't work. The grave in front of him was still there. The frown on his muzzle only deepened as he racked his brain for answers. He had been in the northern fields when Applejack found him. Big Macintosh knew his sister was a terrible liar, yet he still had a hard time believing what she told him.
It's an Applejack fic.
Well, actually, Applejack isn't one of the tagged characters.
What? How
We'll see.
dare you include Big Macintosh, but not the Queen, Applejack?
Good lord. Hell, he was staring right at it, and he still couldn't believe it. But the grave was still there, a pile of dirt with a large wooden cross stuck in the ground at its head. So I guess Jesus exists. That's the whole reason we have the cross tombstones. I'm pretty sure, at least. So, I'm gonna say that someone here's a Catholic.
Catholic ponies. Not something I needed to know existed.
They don't exist. Until now, I guess. There were no markings, no epitaph, no name. Just a strange series of symbols carved into the horizontal stick. But it was there, and that was what bothered him. Big Mac knew the farm like he knew his own hooves. But for the life of him, he could not remember who was buried there. It wasn't Ma nor Pa. He knew where their graves were, and he had watched them get lowered into the ground in their sleek black coffins. Well, at least they were sleek, you know? So, who was buried here?
You want to do Applejack and I can do Big Mac?
I guess. Big Mac is also not one of the featured characters, by the way.
Oh, I thought that he's going to be the main character, so I was like, if you're going to narrate, then I should probably be the main character.
I don't know, we'll see. But
Alright, then I guess I can do Applejack.
I guess so.
Annie walk.
Oh, good God. Applejack came up from behind him, wiping her brow after a long day's work. Hey, nope. She frowned.
Granny doesn't know either. It's weird, Mac. Weird.
You know, I chose this story so that we could have a deep conversation. But I guess that won't be happening.
Alright, you want me to change the voice? Is that what you're saying?
It's already canon. You change that voice, you'll doom us all.
It's weird, Mac. Weird.
Good lord. He nodded, shifting the sprig of weed in his mouth. You say Apple Bloom found it? His sister nodded.
Yeah, she was up here.
Please
with the
go back to the
Crusaders
other
where
one.
They found it.
Why are you doing that one now?
Because you told me not to switch the voice, so I had to switch the voice.
You're an idiot. We're all going to die.
I don't know if they know what it is, but
Her voice trailed off.
how could this happen, Mac? How could someone be buried here without us knowing about it?
Big Mac didn't answer. He didn't know.
It had to be family,
Applejack said.
but ain't no pony I can think of that we buried here. What, did we forget some pony?
I don't know. A cool wind blew through their manes.
Mac, you feel like we are forgetting something.
Big Mac closed his eyes and sighed. Hey, yep. And I'd give it a leg to remember what. And here we have another quote. Let us not ask what we remember, but ask what we forgot. Only then shall we reveal history in its whole. Who said that? Who the hell knows? Maybe it was the author. Just, doing a motion of explicit nature.
It's just like, dash me.
Me, I said that. I did. The Pegasus narrowed her eyes as she squinted down at the tiled floor below her. She thought hard for a second, leaning her head down to get a better look. Finally, she dropped to the floor, pressing her chin on the ground and squinting at the tiles. Across the hall was the exit, a set of sandy stairs leading up and out of the ruins. Her eyes went from the floor to the walls, identifying tiny holes in the walls. A smirk fell upon her muzzle as she gauged the floor again. This, I think, will be our main character.
All right. Center, center, left, left, right, center, right, left.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny for a particular reason, but yeah.
Is it because it sounds like it would be Applejack's voice, but I didn't use it for Applejack?
Yes, somewhat. She mumbled to herself.
Then center, no, left, right, left, center.
Land sakes, Darren, could you step it up? An impatient voice shouted from the exit. Unlike you, I ain't got all day. Daring Do rolled her eyes. She glared at the earth pony that was waiting on the other side of the tiles. The yellow stallion rolled his eyes back at her. With a cocky smirk, the Pegasus leapt into action. Each hoof step was calculated, and her movements precise. She had this down to an art, she thought. She was a master, a professional, and Daring Do doesn't make a mistake. There was a click. As her hoof landed in between two tiles. From one of the holes in the wall, a barbed arrow dipped in poison shot out at an unavoidable speed. Or it would have, had the entire trap not been disarmed hours ago. Bang! Remarked the stallion dryly. You're dead.
So am I Daring Do? Is that the person I was playing?
Yep.
Darn.
Cursed Daring Do.
Right, not left. I had that.
You sure did. Came the reply as Daring crossed the rest of the trap without issue. The Pegasus scowled and swatted at his brown hat, dropping it over his emerald eyes.
Shut up, Brayburn. I don't know why I put up with you. It's Brayburn. Every pony's gay for Brayburn.
I am gay for Brayburn. Thank you for asking. Brayburn just rolled his eyes again, a motion obscured by his hat. Darren trotted past him and up the stairs, leaving the half-buried temple for the scorching desert. She blinked a few times as her eyes adjusted to the sun. Soon enough, she made out the tents and campfire remains that made up their improvised camp. So, you want me to mark out the right path again? Or is this gonna be a regular thing? Brayburn asked as he trotted up behind her. The Pegasus rolled her eyes.
What can I say? I was bored, and I thought I had that darn path memorized.
She trotted off toward the camp, Brayburn close behind.
And there's no point in marking it. Really. Better safe than sorry. You find anything?
Brayburn's carefree smirk melted away into a scowl. Not a darn thing. He lowered his head, sighing in frustration. At this rate, we'll be here for months. Daring gave him a pat on the back.
Chin up, cow pony.
Truth be told, she was just as frustrated as he was.
Okay,
Her
a cow pony. A cow pony sounds like an abomination on everything holy.
Wow, you're just racist.
Okay. If you try and breed a cow with a pony, I am going to call PETA.
I don't want to breed a cow with a pony.
Well, now look who's racist.
I don't want to breed anything. I want other things to breed. Don't care about myself. I care about you. I don't know where I'm going with that. Her usual excursions typically didn't last this long, but when they did, they usually had a good reason. The fact that they couldn't find the artifact they were they were looking for was not a good reason. The campsite was cluttered with books and journals, papers and notes weighted down by rocks dotting the area. Darren almost tripped over one particularly large rock holding down a dissertation about culture and traditions of ancient tribes.
So why'd you call me up?
I wanted to get your opinion on this, Brayburn said as he went over a stack of papers. There's a bunch of weird symbols all over the place, and I think those symbols are the key here. Darren laughed at that.
And what do the symbols mean?
I don't know. They all just look like a bunch of scribbles to me.
Ooh, they said it.
Ooh,
And here I thought you learned something. But alas.
She threw a foreleg over her forehead.
What does that look like? Jesus.
No, it's just like this. I realize that you can't see me, but trust me, I'm doing it. It just looks like this.
Okay. My hopes were misplaced. I should have known better than to hope that Brayburn would learn something. You shut your mouth about Brayburn. You are lucky that he even decided to look in your direction.
Wizzy's an angry person.
I am a passionate person.
Sure. Brayburn picked up one of the papers and squinted at it. Wait, I can read this one. It's telling you to take your pith helmet and shove it somewhere unpleasant.
What the heck? We'll see about that. Where's the book I gave you? I want to check my work so we don't get a repeat of last time.
The stallion shivered at the memory. In my saddlebag. Darren nodded and trotted off towards the tent that had been pitched up. She sighed in contentment, wiping some sweat from her brow. As adventures went, this one was slower than most, but it was still a welcome change. There was no crazy, corrupt archaeologist chasing them, no evil jungle guardian threatening to immolate them, and no rush to finish. Just the desert, a half-buried temple, and a missing artifact. Okay, the missing artifact was a bit annoying, but they'd find it. She glanced up at the sun, noting its position and estimating the hours until nightfall. Not that it really mattered, she realized. They had tents and sleeping bags this time. She ducked her head into the tent and went over to her companion's saddlebags. She reached in and paused, noticing a photograph. The picture showed Brayburn posing with an orange mare in a brown Stetson,
I know who that mare is.
a hammer in his mouth. That was his cousin, if she recalled correctly. One of many, sure, but she was still one of his favorites. What was her name?
Applejack. God, come on.
No, it's actually Francine.
No, it's not.
No, you got it wrong.
You're the one who's wrong. Excuse me.
Guess I'm just the better My Little Pony expert.
You're wrong!
Daring shook off the thoughts, even with his permission. It still felt wrong to go through his belongings. Raiding ancient ruins was fine, she reasoned. Not like any pony there would object. Except for that one time.
Focus.
She chided herself. She pulled out one of a few books from the bag, but frowned when she saw two very familiar ponies on the cover.
Bray, why do you have one of my books?
She shouted out. Good firewood, came the reply.
Really?
Nah, I just figured that might make a good bartering tool. Think of what a signed Darren Do book could get us.
Is Darren Do famous?
Yeah. Okay, so it's a whole thing. You see, nobody knows that Daring Do is actually real. She makes books of her own life under the pseudonym A.K. Yearling. but she is essentially she doesn't want to get figured out. And then she does by Rainbow Dash. Oops. And the gang, of course. But Rainbow Dash in particular, because Rainbow Dash and Daring Do, they're like the same character.
Really now?
Well, same design. Yeah. She rolled her eyes.
I haven't signed it yet.
She replied. Yet, came the answer. She set the book aside, laughing at the cover. The cover showed herself swinging from a vine, with Brayburn close behind as a massive dragon chased them both out. She didn't know who designed her covers, but they had a wild imagination. Finally, she located the book she was looking for, a thick book with its pages marred by annotations. She smiled as she noticed a bookmark tucked about a quarter of the way through the book.
So he's been reading this after all.
With the book tucked under her wing, she left the tent. She joined Brayburn, who was sitting on a rock at the camp center. Sure would help if we knew what this artifact thing is, Brayburn said.
I told you, all we know is that it's called Fade in Equestrian, with the actual meaning being lost in translation,
replied Darren matter-of-factly. And what's it do?
No idea.
She replied as she headed for the temple.
Grab some paper and a quill. We've got some transcribing to do.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
Alright, I guess just steal my thing. It's fine.
I was joining you, God.
You're not even a freaking southern person. That's fine, whatever.
I may not be southern, but I'm more yeehaw than you'll ever be.
The two descended the stairs to the excavated temple, with Darren giving the trapped tiles another go, this time without setting off any phantom arrows. Brayburn just rolled his eyes and walked across, ignoring the soft pfft of air. After navigating their way through several neutralized traps, long corridors, and a hallway, they found themselves in the central room, the treasure room, according to translations. The large room had a tomb in the center, with a statue of an ancient pony towering over it. Several lit lanterns lined the walls, casting shadows across the floor. Darren trotted over to the far wall, where a series of inscriptions from top to bottom were carved into the wall. I forgot to run it in there. Whatever, still worked. The explorer sat down in front of the wall, laying out her tools around her. Brayburn stepped back, knowing better than to bother her while she was working. As the Pegasus scribbled on her parchment, he let his mind wander. Even after all the years he had worked with Darren, he sometimes found himself wondering how he ended up at her side. He still remembered how they met, of course. Brayburn was just a lowly farmer trying to keep the town alive after a nasty drought. Then she came in, talking about some hidden treasure buried by some Western legend, and asking for a guide.
Something got your tongue?
Now that I think about it, how did Daring not know Applejack from the picture? Oh well, doesn't matter.
Aha, you admitted it.
What? Ah, shoot. You got me, Darren asked, spitting out the quill for a second. Brayburn blinked. Just thinking. Didn't want to distract you and all.
Please, the one time I want you to talk is the one time you shut your mouth.
She laughed.
Come on, this silence is killing me. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, all right. I was just thinking about how we first met. Back when Appaloosa was facing that nasty drought. My farm was barely staying afloat. One of my cousins, Big Mac, thought we were for sure going under. Heck, he even offered me a place on his farm. That's how sure of it he was. But then you came along, offering to pay any fool dumb enough to lead you around. If only I knew what would happen, then I probably would have stayed home. Darren glared at him, having picked up the quill in her mouth again and being unable to respond. I know you gave me plenty of chances to quit, but what can I say? I'm stubborn. Also thought I would get paid if I just up and left. I wouldn't get paid if I just up and left. So we went searching through the temple and got stuck in the mine and almost died for that stupid saw blade trap. Or to that stupid saw blade trap. He shuddered at that memory. Anyways, we somehow survived, and I was pretty miffed at you for a bit. Then you ran off to Celestia knows where, and I didn't hear from you for a few months. And finally, you showed up out of nowhere and dragged me out to some jungle in a place I can't pronounce. Darren spit out the quill again.
Quit your whining. You lived.
Reckon so, and I had such a good time I kept coming back for more. He chuckled. But did you really have to write me into those books?
I mean, you were there.
She replied.
And don't act like you don't enjoy the commission I keep trying to give you.
It's too many bits, he shot back. My granny would whoop me if she saw how much money you were trying to give me. But enough about that. You done? The Pegasus nodded.
Yeah, I think so.
Brayburn trotted over to her side as she went over her notes.
Okay. The first line looks like a quote of some sort. Recordates autumn in adernum vivit.
Probably would be easier to say without the accent, wouldn't it, Wizzy? Oh well.
But the
She read
accent
aloud.
makes me live. Translates roughly to, he who is remembered will live forever. Then it goes on to talk about some ancient mage who I think was the one who wrote this. He says his name is Recordatio. Talks about some struggle with a pony named Historia.
Darren cleared her throat and began to read along.
Ahem. Although we may have agreed, I must say that Historia was correct in one thing, that history is only what is written. We cannot recall what truly occurred as we only read about what was recorded. We see history through the eyes of the historian who wrote the very text we read. Yet all of this knowledge is forgotten, because he was forgotten. Historia betrayed my trust. He stole my precious Lustitate from me. He stole her and broke her heart until she threw herself into the river. For that I cannot forgive him. But as I lay here, dying, I realized the true extent of what I've done. I have created a spell, one that not only kills, but removes. The Exalesco spell has worked too well. Historia has never existed. I have searched far and wide across the city. His works that were once a staple in the library are gone. His friends hold no knowledge of his name. His parents had no children. At first I reveled in my success, but I soon discovered the true extent of my actions.
Brayburn drew a deep breath as Daring read aloud. Wow. So this Ricardatio guy sounded like quite the pony. His eyes went over to the large statue in the corner of the room. I wonder if that's him,
We might find out.
Darren replied as she cleared her throat and continued reading.
Ahem. Historia's words, I soon realized, were groundbreaking, and they had changed the way the philosophers talked of history. But now that those words were gone, so is that discussion. I find myself unable to discuss his profound ideas with anybody, as nobody remembers them. And although I have tried to bring his words back, I cannot, for I am not him. And now I sit here in this tomb that I have said is for me, but it is for him. Here I have buried an incomplete transcript of Historia's work, written to the best of my memory, but the full work can never be remembered.
I hate that voice.
You love it.
No, I don't, actually. Brayburn went closer to the statue, looking up at it. I guess this Historia and that artifact we're looking for is a book. He narrowed his eyes at the base of the statue, noticing a strange proportion. Darren didn't notice. Protrusion. My bad. My deepest apologies. He noticed a strange protrusion. Darren didn't notice as she continued reading.
To fully erase someone from history is a crime, for, as many have noted before me, as long as a pony is remembered, they shall live forever.
Can't wait for next Chinese New Year. You'll be finished reading the
Hey.
sentence once that comes around, I'm sure.
I have killed Historia completely, and there is no greater sin. Although I have buried Historia's work here, I have also placed a Excelesco spell on it. That's a nice cowboy barbecue sauce I like. Excelesco. I fear that someone may figure out how to cast it, and I cannot let that happen. Recordatis autem in aeternum vivit.
Oh, thank God he's done. As the words left her lips, the statue began glowing white.
Well, that's...
Daring began, turning to face Brayburn when his hoof touched the base of the statue. There was a blast of light and energy that knocked both ponies off their hooves. Daring scrambled to her hooves, paper scattered about around her.
Bray, what did...
Her words caught in her throat when she saw him lying on the ground. Brayburn gasped for air, his head spinning. Just touched the thing. Daring was at his side in an instant, but didn't see any physical wounds.
Stay down,
She commanded, although he had no intentions to do otherwise. She went over to the base, where a hidden slot had propped open.
How did we miss this?
She thought for a second. She noticed an inscription carved into the panel, and a book hidden inside. She read the inscription to herself quietly when she froze. What does it say? Brayburn asked weakly.
I'm so stupid.
She whispered, dread filling her.
It says, time will forget you. Bray, oh dear Celestia, it didn't mean spell.
Brayburn tilted his head in confusion.
The translation,
She said aloud.
it means curse. I should have known. We would have gotten out of here. The words must have triggered the spell.
Daring, Brayburn called out. Please, it ain't your fault. I'm the one who touched the darn thing. She flew to his side again.
Okay, it's fine. We'll get you out. We'll get you help.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how she said it. I don't think I'll make it, Brayburn replied. He shakily held up one of his hooves, and Daring froze when she saw that it was losing color, the yellow fading away to white.
You're not gonna die.
Good Lord, Daring yelled out.
Just hold on.
She turned to one of the walls frantically.
There's got to be something here to reverse the curse. Something.
Darren. The tone of his voice made her stop. I don't want to go.
Oh, quit your whining. You're not dying.
She wanted to say something, anything to keep him. But she couldn't find the words.
You can't kill off Brayburn. Come on, he's too cool for that.
She sighed, defeated, and sat down next to him.
You shouldn't have come.
Come on, man. Keep it consistent, please.
All right, I'll reread it. You shouldn't have come.
She whispered. Hey, don't blame yourself. Brayburn gasped out. He was almost completely white now.
No! I don't care what that stupid recordatio said.
She growled, ears folded.
I won't forget you, I swear it.
She squeezed his hoof.
I promise. You still owe me $5.
I don't want sympathy, he whispered.
Then what do you want? Please, let me do something.
She said. I'd ask you to tell my family I love them, but I don't think they'll remember me, he remarked sadly.
I'll make sure they remember you,
she said sincerely.
Bray, you're the best friend I could have asked for. You've changed my life. Crazy as it sounds, I won't just forget you. You're going to be fine, you hear me?
I trust you, he gasped. He was almost transparent now. You know what I want? A hug would be nice, he replied, a tear rolling down his cheek. Darren threw her forelegs around him, burying her head in his chest.
I'm so sorry,
she whispered. Finally, you're getting the tone. I am too, he shuddered. I'm scared, Darren.
I know.
They closed their eyes and laid there, weeping silently. She felt his chest rise and fall until it fell and didn't rise again.
No, you can't just kill off Brayburn.
But they did. Look, another quote.
Screw this story.
Time heals nothing at all.
Oh, screw this story. That's just not even true.
She woke alone, on the cold floor of the empty tomb. Looking around, she saw no trace of him. Her heart beat faster at the realization, hoping that he had simply left the tomb. Darren flew out of the temple, charging through the ruined traps and out into the cool desert night. The campsite was empty. Her eyes darted around, hoping to find a hint of yellow or brown. Finding nothing, she went over to the tent, then saw it. Her book was lying in the dirt where she had left it. But it was different. On the cover, she was alone. The area where he once stood, poised and ready for action, was empty. All that was there were some trees.
No.
She flipped through the book, skimming through the unfamiliar words.
No.
There was no mention of him. The book fell out of her hooves as she took a shaky step back. Her mind reeled, unable to accept the truth. Then Darren looked around the campsite. Her supplies were halved, because instead of their being there with him, she was alone.
No!
She threw the book in anger, tears welling in her eyes.
He's not gone. He can't be. He can't.
Who was I thinking? Her wailings went unanswered in the desert. She sank her hooves, collapsing to the ground.
What was his name?
She asked. Panic was welling in her as she scrambled to her hooves.
What was his name? I can't forget. I can't.
She screamed.
No!
With a deep, shaky breath, Darren pushed down her anxiety.
No,
She said quieter.
no. His name is Brayburn. His name is Brayburn.
She grabbed a quill and her book, opening it to the first few blank pages. Then she started writing.
Brayburn, you have shining green eyes. Wait, hold on. Brayburn, you have shining green eyes and a bright yellow coat. Your cutie mark is an apple, and you won't be caught dead without your hat and vest. You founded the town of Appaloosa in the middle of the desert, and there's something to be proud of. Your loyalty knows no bounds, and you stick up for your friends. You're never afraid to put them before yourself. You love your family, especially your cousins Applejack and Big Mac. I used to say you.
Yourself.
I used to say you talk too much, but you have so much left to say. You saved my life so many times, and you helped me more than I can ever say. You were there for me, and above all, you were my friend. I won't forget you, I promise. Hey, you wanted me to be consistent. That was consistent with how I made her read before.
No, I don't blame you.
She can't read with emotion. That's my character for her.
Thing is, she wasn't writing. She wasn't reading there, she was writing.
She was reading it back to herself, okay?
Sure.
Otherwise, it would be in italics.
With that, she closed the book, and with a deep, shaky breath, she tried to smile. But she cried. Another quote! And it feels like an end I can't override. No, not this time.
Are these lyrics?
Possibly. Gosh, I hope not. It wouldn't be the first time that Daring Do dug a hole. It sure wouldn't be the last time. But this time was different than digging up a temple in the desert or ancient ruins in the jungle.
Oh, Jesus. That's whose grave it was in the beginning.
I actually totally figured this because I read the...
You read the story before.
Nope. Well, briefly, but I didn't make it to there. I read the description and was like, oh, Bravebird's gonna die. Because, like, the description says, only Daring Do knows who that grave belongs to.
Oh, Jesus.
She had to wait until she was sure the family went to sleep. Then she found a nice, secluded area on the edge of the property and dug. When the hole was done, she removed the metal box from her bags. She placed her book inside, the one in which she had scribbled her last-minute eulogy to him, out of fear that she'd forget him. But she hadn't. It was true that history was different now. The town of Appaloosa, she found, had been established by some mayor named Fiddlesticks. Oh, hey, Fiddlesticks. Whose name sounded vaguely familiar from one of Brayburn's stories. Darren placed the book inside the box, then locked it. With a heavy heart, she lowered the box into the hole. Stepping back, she turned to a wooden cross she had fashioned. Feeling inspired, she took out her knife and gripped it in her teeth. The Pegasus carved a message to the horizontal bar.
Recordatus autumn in aeternum vivit. Isn't that this friggin' spell that she used on him?
Well, I mean, it wasn't she that... I mean, it was the statue's problem, you know? Statue's fault.
Why didn't she just, write Brayburn on it or something?
Because she forgot his name. Possibly. I don't know.
No, it said that she didn't forget him.
Yeah, she didn't forget him. But look, man, I don't know, okay? I'm sure there's a reason. Why don't you shut up about it, okay? Huh? How about that, punk? Nobody wants to live forever. Those who... Oh, by the way, this is another quote. Nobody wants to live forever. Those who do don't know how to live. He couldn't sleep. Big Mac had long since given up on laying in his bed. Instead found himself in the kitchen, staring out the window in the direction of the grave that had been plaguing his thoughts. The events of the day did little to ease his mind. It was one thing if he didn't know. The Apple family was quite extensive after all, and Granny Smith was getting forgetful with her age. But he had spent the earlier part of the night scrutinizing every record and parchment, every family picture book, and every letter, and he still had no idea who could possibly be buried in his yard. He scowled. Ever since Applejack had posed the question, something had been burning in the back of his mind. He was forgetting something. He was sure of it. But what? And why was it bothering him so much? Shaking his head, he stood. He wasn't going to get any answers sitting here. He trotted out the door towards the grave, not sure what he was looking for or hoping to accomplish. Thoughts flew through his mind faster than a certain rainbow-maned Pegasus as he made his way to the grave. As he approached, however, he stopped in his tracks. Some pony was sitting next to the grave. A lantern lay next to the mysterious pony, a dull yellow-coated Pegasus. Yego my ego. The pony was laying comfortably on some sort of blanket. Books and paper in a circle around them. A quill was in their mouth as they scribbled away at some parchment. Big Mac narrowed his eyes. He had half a mind to charge down the trespasser and kick them off the property. But clearly this pony knew something about the grave. His mind was made up in a second. The stallion made his way down the hill at an even pace. The pony had spit out the quill and turned her attention to a book. As he drew closer, he noticed the slightly unkempt black and gray mane, the scars that ran along her body, and the wings on the other side. This mysterious pony's ears twitched as Mac approached, but they didn't look away from their book.
I'm assuming you're Big Macintosh?
Applejack, is that you? Saying it because of his voice. Big Mac blinked. He had surely never met this pony before. Yep,
The name's Darren.
responded the Pegasus.
Darren Dew.
With a free hoof, she patted the grass next to her, and Big Mac took a seat.
So,
Darren said softly.
I'm guessing you have questions.
Big Mac nodded, still wary of the suspicious pony.
I guess I have to apologize for intruding on your land, first of all, but I figured it was only a matter of time before you found it.
She paused, brushing her mane from her eyes.
He spoke highly of you.
Who? With a sad smile, Darren closed the book, meeting Macintosh's eyes for the first time.
When a pony dies, where do they go?
Big Mac blinked at the question. He eventually shrugged his shoulders.
I've been to places beyond Equestria, and I found that every culture has its own answer to that question. Ancient equestrians believed that as long as a pony is remembered and talked about, they will live. But when they finally fade away, when no pony remembers them, then they die at last. This is Coco, by the way. The quote here means, "He who is remembered will live forever."
Oh, well, there you go. That's why the quote happened.
Yeah. But it's like, why is the cross the symbol of Christianity when it's what Jesus was killed on?
Ain't that a good question? I mean, there's a reason for that. But I'm Mormon, we don't have the cross.
Hey.
Well, I mean, there was a cross involved, but Mormons are like, nah, that's not the thing. Anyways, Mac shifted uncomfortably.
It's a bit sad, but I just need you to understand.
Her eyes went to the grave, and she continued.
I can't begin to describe the pony buried here. He was kind, generous, brave, but above all, he was a hunk. He was the best friend that I could have ever asked for. He was your cousin.
Big Mac's eyes went wide, but as he opened his mouth to speak, Daring cut him off.
You don't remember him. Neither does your sister. That's my fault.
Her voice almost broke at that, but she kept her composure.
Tom has forgotten him, but I haven't.
She slid one of her books across the grass. Big Mac added curiously and opened it. He found a sketch on the first page of a pony rearing up on their hind legs. The pony was dressed in a vest and a hat, their mouth opened as if in the middle of a cheer. Mac couldn't place it, but the drawing made him feel nostalgic. His eyes went back to the Pegasus, who nodded at him with the same smile she had worn the entire time.
His name was... No. His name is Brayburn. And as long as I'm alive, he won't be forgotten. Let me tell you about him. Making up a song about Brayburn.
All we have left then is time. And time, my dear, changes everything. The end. Oh, and there's a song. Look at that.
Is that what the lyrics
Scribble.
were?
Possibly.
This has to be it.
Yeah, probably. I'm gonna check that out later. So, that was Scribble by The Red Parade. And my man, my Wizzy, Bo Busy, Banana Fana Fo Fizzy, Me My Mo Mizzy,
Yeah.
Wizzy. What did you think?
I thought it was really good up until they killed off Brayburn.
I thought it was really good when they killed off Raybird.
Big mistake killing off the best character. Besides Applejack.
Hey man, sometimes people just die. And doesn't it get you sad?
He didn't just die, Ross. He was forgotten.
Yeah, and that sucks.
It's like the scene in Coco where the guy is dying because he's finally forgotten and he doesn't even get a resolution. That was so sad.
Spoilers for Coco, by the way.
Not really.
A bit. I mean, you spoiled one of the most heavy-hitting parts of the movie. Oh, that scene. But anyways, let me tell you. A few years back, I once had this idea for, like, a show I would make. And there were two characters, and one of them wanted to be remembered, and one of them didn't care. And they both die. One of them gets killed and is remembered, and that's the one that was the one who didn't care about being remembered. The one who did care about being remembered was forgotten forever. And that reminded me of this.
That's like one of the most common existential fears that I've never actually gotten. Because, like, it just seems easy to make my peace with, for me.
Well, I want to congratulate you. It, however, terrifies the shit out of me.
Hey, maybe we're the two guys in your story.
Hey, maybe.
Hey, that means that I get to be remembered.
Fuck. I want to make that story. That's a good... I'll be honest. One of my best ideas for a story.
All right. I think that everything is wrapped up then.
Yeah, that just about sums it up. This has been the earliest we've ever wrapped up a episode. Not in
Yes.
terms of episode length, but in terms of time of day. So, thank you all for listening. Please, please, please go read the actual story. I've got to remember to say that at the beginning of the episodes. Because now we've just basically spoiled it for you. I mean, technically we did read it to you. But the problem is...
At least go to the page and rate the story.
Just give it a good old thumbs up, please, 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 please. Because, frankly, this was probably my favorite of the stories we've read so far.
Really?
Nah, I Daybreaker's still probably my favorite, but... I think this is probably the second best. I don't know, but that's just me.
I'm always a sucker for comedy, so I really like those funny stories.
Oh, you. Such a comic.
Still waiting for one of these to make me cry.
That almost got me. But it
Yeah,
didn't.
but it's like it did well because it used Brayburn, my love for Brayburn, against me, but, still. Maybe if they had gone with Applejack, I would have cried.
Well, we'll see if we can make you cry. In 500 Little Murders. That one's not coming for a long while, by the way, guys. Just to let you know. That's just a little tease for way in the future. We're not ready to tackle 10,000 words yet. Or was it 15,000 words? Perhaps 13,000.
Bye.
I can't remember. Goodbye, everybody.